Hey y'all, oh my goodness. Hey, how is it going? My name is Taquisha. This is Our Freedom Song, and I am so happy that you are here. It has actually been way too long, and I am so sorry about that, y'all. Life has been lifing. I would say that for sure. It is super busy, and then the garden is definitely doing its thing. That thing is at the end of August, so it's mostly dying away and making way for fall for sure. So we are having to pivot again, but for the health and the productivity of the garden, it's absolutely necessary. So this year we tried something new and planted over 70 varieties of tomatoes. And within that 70 varieties, we planted about 150 tomato plants. So I decided to switch it up last year. I mixed up our peppers and cucumbers and tomatoes. Each were planted in a raised garden bed, our bamboo beds that we made. And so this year I decided to, for the most part, plant only peppers in our containers. And I planted all of our tomatoes in ground. So I need to talk to you guys about something, and that is the cons of planting in ground. What I have learned from my personal experience this time around. First, I just want to say there are so many pros whenever we are planting in ground. The first pro that comes to my mind is definitely cost. It is cost effective to use the ground that you have and plant in it, which is what we did in our in-ground garden. I tried to amend it as much as possible, and I'll get to that later, but just off the top, I would say that is the biggest pro. And even if you have to purchase some amendments or soil for your in-ground garden, it's definitely still going to be less soil and fertilization than you're going to need if you plant in a raised bed. So although I just want to repeat that, although there are definitely pros when it comes to planting in ground, there are cons when planting in ground. And from my experience, this is what is swaying me away from our in-ground garden. Okay, so let's chat about this. I definitely want to hear from you. Has raised beds been something that you've leaned into, or are you in ground? I know that I was planning to do a in-ground garden tour versus raised bed garden tour, and the more the summer went on and I saw what was happening in ground compared to container gardening, I knew that I was starting to favor our raised bed garden area so much more than the in-ground. And I want to tell you why. Like, there are so many reasons why I think that now is the time for the pivot, and that's before next spring season. It is actually time to plant a fall garden, and I wasn't going to be planting our fall garden in ground anyway. I was actually going to be using our containers for our fall gardening, and then I was going to plant a cover crop in our in-ground beds to amend the soil and just try to really build that soil up. So before I could even really start processing the in-ground garden, I knew that I had to deal with not only our grapevines, but also this our archway that I talked about last time. I was so scared to just go in it because it was so wild and crazy. And so Thomas and I decided that we would tackle that first and really figure out a solution that would work great for the grapevines, because they needed so much more of their own space in order to grow. And so we decided an archway would be an incredible idea for those. So we landed on going really high with the arch so that we have plenty of vertical space for our grapevines to grow. So from here and so far, I really love it. I think it's going to be incredibly effective. I love how high it is as well because I won't feel like it's too far down close to my head when it's all filled with grapevines, because it will be. And so unlike our archway at the entrance that is, you know, a regular size, look how overgrown it is. When I go in there, I just feel like I would love if there was more space. And so I think that is going to be incredible. And just this whole space, I think it's going to just create a wall of vines, which is going to look pretty cool. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be taking these vines right here and kind of untangling them as much as I can, taking them from the fence and going ahead and flipping them that way and trying to weave them into our cattle panel there. And so that is what I'm going to be doing. I am going to be cutting away our vine right here because it is just it is growing. It is growing really well, but it is growing in the wrong spots. And so I'm going to be doing some pruning and really just getting all of this cleaned up. A little less wild, but still a little wild. I'm going for just like a medium here. Like, can we just get that beautiful whimsical look, but a little tamed at the same time? That crazy guy. Okay, so not only was our tomato harvest poor this year in comparison to last year's harvest, which was so abundant with only a fraction of the amount of tomato plants, but we also didn't have any in-ground bean. Like, we didn't have any in-ground bean harvest this year, and I'm gonna get to that very soon. But on top of all of that, the peppers that we planted in ground this year suffered tremendously. We barely got a harvest from them. I knew the soil was poor and that the soil would need time to build up. And I did make incredible effort to make sure that I was amending the ground, starting with a very good foundation. If you guys remember, like, I laid down all of that, what they called golden fertilizer, which is just rabbit manure. And I was really thinking that we were going to have such a successful year. Like, my hopes were, I would say my hopes and expectation, y'all, was so high because I took the time to have the necessary amendments. Like, I did the things. And so my expectation was really, really great. I even had the soil tested. I had the soil tested so that I could do everything right. And on top of trying to better the soil, we had such an incredible loss because of, drum roll please, the rabbits, y'all. It was the rabbits. The rabbits have completely invaded the garden. And we actually tried to fortify the garden. We bought some deer netting, which is so small, like the little holes in it. But listen, when I tell you that those rabbits was jumping through this deer netting magically, like it was invisible, I am not kidding. Like, it's crazy. So crazy. I was mind blown to see them jump through our fencing the way that they were. And we put this deer netting around the entire garden, which was a very tedious task. And listen, those rabbits was hopping through it like it didn't even exist. So at this point, I have a huge decision to make, right? Because the wild rabbit population in our area is so incredible, and they are everywhere all the time. But what I noticed is that they ate all of our green bean leaves that were planted in ground, but they did not hop inside the containers. After they finished going through the green beans, they actually started to eat the pepper plants, y'all, that were in the ground. They just munched them right up. And I've even noticed that some were starting to eat the zinnia heads, which is mind-blowing because I had no idea they would eat those. So here I am, left with this big decision on what to do with our in-ground garden. Yes, I want to continue to build the soil, but it's a big investment to plant in this much space, knowing that there's a huge problem with the rabbits. In order to ensure that no rabbit can get into this garden, we need to actually put chicken wire around the whole entire garden space, y'all. As you can imagine, that's going to be a big investment. But the truth is, no matter what we do to improve the garden, it's going to be an investment. And I think that at this point, we all understand that. So knowing that, we have to consider all the things in play and figure out what the best investment is going to be at this moment. I know that I will have to eventually chicken wire our whole entire garden space, which is about 3,000 square feet. I know that I need better soil in our in-ground space. And I know that the rabbits are at this point not interested in jumping into the raised bed garden. I also know that at any time that could change. If an animal is hungry, it's going to do what it needs to do to find food and get to that food, right? So that's why I know that even going with raised garden beds, I am still going to have to come full circle and add that chicken wire at some point. My main priority going into next spring season would be to have better soil. So that is an investment of time and resources into planting seeds, growing baby starts, and putting them into the soil is not going to go to waste once transplanted. So my main priority going into next spring season would have to be having better soil so that I don't waste time and energy and money taking care of baby plants that I started from seed just to sow them into very poor soil, which makes soil health at the top of the priority list. If I put my beautiful, healthy plant starts into very poor soil, I'm working against myself and possibly in vain. So because the soil is at the top of the priority list, I want to be able to control the soil. I'm thinking that we will be turning our in-ground space into a container garden. Yes. So I've considered what would be the best in that respect as to what type of containers we would use in this space. As you know, containers can be bought and they can be built. I personally really appreciate all of our Epic Gardener planters. I think that they are absolutely great. But I also know that this is a great investment, something that needs to be saved up over the course of time. And in our case, I don't know how long it would actually take me to save the money that I would need in order to completely fill our in-ground garden area before next spring. I don't think that we would have it done. Building them is also an investment. I think ultimately it really comes down to the aesthetics for us. If you've been following us for any amount of time, you know that we built our garden shed and really developed a space over in that area that we have really come to love. I noticed that I was drawn to that area every single day. If it was rainy, if it was humid, if it was hot, it didn't matter. Like, I was just drawn to that area. I just loved the way I felt when I walked into that space. Yes, I do believe that it's the beauty of the flowers, but I also believe that it's something about that layout and the spaciousness that I really, really felt comfortable in. And that's the thing with gardening. Over time, we are creating spaces that are functional, yes, that we can grow food in, yes, but we also need to find beauty and comfort and satisfaction in our spaces as well. Well, at least I do. I know everybody's not the same. Thomas and I really both love wood, and I envision that this in-ground space can actually mimic what we created on the other side of our garden. One of the things that I noticed this last spring was that the in-ground space was just way too crowded for me. Once things got big and bushy and wild, which can be beautiful, I mean, it was just crowding out the walkways, and I don't personally like that. Crazy part too is that it actually didn't produce more food because of the rabbits. So I planted so much more and crowded everything in really tight, but it didn't give me more food than I had the year before. And so I was really disappointed in that. So with that being said, I am going to be focusing on quality over quantity because really healthy plants actually can produce a lot of food. I'm changing my mindset just a bit because at the end of the day, if I'm in a space that I honestly feel like I don't want to be in, I'm not going to be encouraged to do the necessary hard work because it's very hard work that it requires. I find that each year I have changed something very significantly. And that's because as a gardener, I learned so much about myself during the gardening process. This journey is teaching me to embrace the things that I love and the things that I want, and is giving me the opportunity to invite others along for the ride. And I'm so happy that you're here. After we finished the garden shed, I did get some feedback that people were really disappointed. And I don't speak on people's disappointments a whole lot on this channel because I don't think that this is the space for that. But I just want to comment on how eye-opening that was for me, because somewhere along the way, someone had built an expectation that when they click on a video from me, they were only going to see us growing and measuring our vegetables. And it was going to just be about that one thing. And that's not what this space is at all. So I am sorry that at some point, either because of something that I did or maybe because of a vain imagination, that you developed that idea about what you are going to find here. Although I do want you to stay because I will be planting and measuring vegetables. It's just not only that. This is our freedom song, which is the journey that we are on And we are exploring what it means to be a homesteading family, what it means to learn to garden and embrace new things like the beauty of a flower, and to figure out how to build things that we need with our hands. And it's about making our food from scratch when we can. And it's just beautiful to us. It's an incredible, beautiful journey, and we are so grateful for the privilege that we have of sharing it with others, and that you are interested in our journey, no matter what that looks like. If I'm doing a creative work that requires ingenuity, like our $5 planter, or using file cabinets to make planters, or making strawberry baskets, building a greenhouse from reclaimed wood, reclaimed materials, that you guys are here and excited for the journey. Or if we build a garden shed with all purchased lumber and decide to make it an organized space that encourages rest and creativity, that you guys are excited to be on this journey with us. So appreciate each and every one of you, and that you've decided to be here on this journey with us, because you don't have to. It's something that you choose for your life with your time, which is valuable. Even when we are battling heat and humidity and weather that no one can control, and pest after pest after pest, including these pesky rabbits. And we feel like our plants are dying and we are trying to navigate how to save them. You guys are here for the journey. I so appreciate each and every one of you that you have chosen to be here. Even at this point in this video, you are here. When so many click off at this point in a video, you are still here. Thank you. You're invested, and your care and support means so much to not only me, but my whole family. At the end of the day, I'm just a nobody trying to tell somebody that they can do this. If I can do it, you can do this. We had no prior experience when it came to growing food 3 years ago. And here we are, being able to grow food for our families, start from seed, and preserve the harvest. Like, it's wild how quickly things change with some effort. That in itself is such a miracle. It's such a blessing and privilege. I hope that you will continue to stay on this journey with us as we navigate all of these different changes and problem solve. Until next time, my friends.